Thank you all. I'd like to bring you good news tonight, and I can't. I am here to tell you that you were all bankrupt. My generation has made a thorough mess of this. We are financially irresponsible, and it's not as if we have not seen this coming. But we have serious problems in our economy today. My generation has done this. My children are going to have to pay it back. And like I said, you are bankrupt. And if you're not involved in trying to resolve this, it's your future, it's our country, and I really strongly recommend that you take note and you get involved. Today, the reality of this is that for every dollar the federal government spends, we're borrowing 43 cents or printing it. Think of that. No company could possibly do that and stay in existence. No household could possibly do that and not go through bankruptcy. And let me tell you a secret, no country can either. Okay? We are Greece, but we're bigger than Greece. We're going to fall harder than Greece, and we don't have Germany and the European Union to back us up. It's up to us. Now, we're resilient. We can do this, but the sooner the better. What do we do? You've heard, in fact, I'll tip my cap a little bit to Governor Romney. It's the first time that I really ever was persuaded that Governor Romney's concerned about our economy when he actually named Paul Ryan to be his running mate. Paul Ryan was well known in Congress for that radical budget proposal. If you take that budget proposal, like we just heard from Walter, you won't balance the budget, I believe, at best until 28 years from now. We say we're going to submit a balanced budget in 2013. That means we are going to propose a budget that reduces the government expenditures by 43%. That's radical stuff, but you've got to understand as well, the most serious, blatant security threat to the United States of America is a bad economy, is a weak economy, is a failing economy. You don't need to look at me, you don't need to look at us for that. Look at the Roman Empire, never conquered from without, but overextended and collapsed from within. Guess where we are today? Same thing is true if you want to look at the Ottoman Empire. Same thing more recently is true with the Soviet Empire. And guess where we are today? I'm not a pessimist. I am honestly a major optimist at heart. But you've got to take these things seriously and start doing something to resolve them. Because soon, we go in the next 4 years like we did in the last 4 years. I'm not even sure it's salvageable. Our money will be starting to be worth nothing. And then all kinds of things are going to happen, and none of them particularly are going to be good. So what are we going to do to face this? First of all, we do understand we can't pass the budget. By the way, further, the Republicans and Democrats haven't even passed a budget in our country in the last 3 years. Talk about irresponsibility. That's factual. They haven't even passed a budget, for heaven's sake. When Obama took over as President of the United States of America, I will acknowledge to all of you openly, he probably took control of a country, our country, that was in worse shape than any president in our history except maybe Abraham Lincoln. He had 2 really major wars going on. He had a failing economy and the rest. And he did some things to try to address them. I think he's made them worse. But, one way or the other, it's now up to us. So we can't pass the budget, that's up to Congress. And are we going to be able to pass a budget reducing expenditures by 43%? Not likely. There'll be some give and take, that's what Americans do, and that's okay. But we will hold their feet to the fire. But anytime you have a problem, I don't care what it's about, you have to go through a 3-step process. The first step is you have to recognize you have a problem. I think we're there now. Do you agree? Okay. Second part is you have to explain the problem. And what we're going to do is we're going to have an audit as quickly as possible of the entire federal government using generally accepted accounting principles. It's never happened before. Any public company is required by law to have an accounting, an audit each year using generally accepted accounting principles. Why not the federal government, including the Pentagon? Oh, the Pentagon says, no, 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 not us. Security secrets, state secrets, and the rest of that. Nonsense. We're not going to give away any state secrets, but we're going to start figuring out what's going on here. We're going to show you how much money we're taking in and where the expenditures are, what value we're getting for whatever, and adjust accordingly. We're going to do that. And then the third step of the process is we're going to have to share some pain, folks. And I am absolutely convinced that the people of our country are prepared to do that if, number one, they feel they're acting on honest and truthful information, and number two, that they believe that it's shared, that they're not going to be chumps by doing it themselves, but if everybody shares it, I'm completely convinced that the people of our country will rally. Where does the 43% come from? Let's start with the military. We have faced in our country, under the Republicans, under the Democrats, for decades, that they keep putting our troops in military conflicts all the way around the world. And we say, no, we can't afford it, we cannot be the world's policeman. And in fact, by the way, instead of developing nations halfway around the world, we're going to look at our nation. We have a lot of infrastructure problems in our country. In fact, I was commenting earlier, just walking over here, the road out front here isn't all that good. Maybe we could use some attention there. In addition to kissing babies, I promise, if I'm elected, we'll fix the road out in front of Tulane. Okay? But we can stand to fix our highways, our bridges, our pipelines, all that sort of thing. Where does the 43% come from? We are going to use our military, which we're going to keep strong. By the way, I'm the only one running for president or vice president who's actually served in the military. I'm proud of that. I think that makes a I will be the first Peace Corps volunteer to be elected to national office, and I'm proud of that too. You know, I'm proud of that. I was a federal prosecutor for numbers of years. I'm the only one with prosecutorial experience. I've been a judge for 25 years. I think I bring an awful lot to the table. I've pretty much seen everything that can go wrong in the world. In 25 years on the bench, it kind of finds its way into my courtroom. So, we're going to have a strong military. And if anybody attacks us by thunder, or our allies, they'll wish they had not. That I promise. However, unless somebody does attack us or our allies, we're not going to attack them. We're going to use our military to protect us, to stand for any security threat. We're going to be there. But otherwise, we're not. How many of you believe that Somalia is a security threat to the United States of America? I saw one hand, I don't know. I don't think so. I agree. Al-Qaeda is in Somalia. They're in lots of various other places too. And they do really, they're very radical people in a lot of ways trying to do bad things to good people. I acknowledge that too. However, they're fully as much of a threat to Turkey, Russia, Saudi Arabia as they are us. Let's let them start worrying about it as well. Stop calling attention to ourselves so much. So we're not going to continue to fight in Somalia. Yemen, same deal. The Sudan, same deal. I even read in the papers, this was about 2 or 3 months ago, that the Obama administration was seriously considering putting troops in Mali, for heaven's sake. How many of you think Mali? Come on. The answer is no. Afghanistan. Honestly, I agree. Governor Gary Johnson agrees, and I'm going to talk about him a whole bunch. I believe that what happened on September 11th, 2001 was an act of war. We were attacked, not by Afghanistan, but it came from Afghanistan. They condoned it. They knew it was happening. They allowed it. We had every right to go into Afghanistan, root out these people, bring them to justice. Should have taken us, what, 60 days, 90 days, maybe 120 days, and then we should be gone. I do a lot of flying recently. I was speaking recently to a full-bird colonel of the Air Force. And I was asking, just making conversation, Colonel, where are you stationed now? And he said, and he told me, I don't remember, and then he said, at least I'm not in Iraq and Afghanistan. I said, Colonel, I've not been to Afghanistan, tell me. Is what we're doing there working? Are we making progress? He looked at me really sadly, shook his head and said, no. No, it's counterproductive. We're not accomplishing anything there. We should bring our troops home from Afghanistan now. Part of the 43%. Look, Afghanistan is tribal. You look at it throughout history. They've never had a centralized government. They don't want a centralized government. They're tribal. They don't get along with each other. Of course, our war on drugs, now they're drug lords as well, which is complicated matters. That's a different issue. However, the only thing that unifies the tribes of Afghanistan is what? When a foreign invader comes in and occupies the land. Then they unify to try to throw out the foreign invader. Guess who that is today? The answer is, we leave. You can ask Napoleon if you want to, same deal. The English, same deal. The Soviet Union, it was literally the beginning and the end of the Soviet Union. They went in and tried to occupy Afghanistan, and look what happened to them. Look what's happening to us. The answer is, we leave. That's part of the 43%. And then, you heard this as well, today we have somewhere between, I understand, 900 to 1,000 military bases, military reservations in foreign countries around the world. And I say, look, we're not isolationists. That's naive in my opinion. We don't do that. I think it's dangerous. We're going to protect our security interests. In fact, if somebody tries to close the Straits of Hormuz or something, I think that's a security threat to our country, and we're going to do something about it. But unless it is that security threat, unless these military bases are necessary for our security, I say we close them down and bring the people home. That's part of the 43%. I was actually reading a magazine article. I have a lot of time in news on airlines. I read a lot. And I saw this woman quoted from Germany. She lives in a small town in Germany next to a U.S. Army base. And she was horrified. The idea that you might close your U.S. Army base, we will lose 92% of the revenue for our town. And you know something? She's probably right. And I say, no, let's spend the money here in New Orleans or in Kansas City or in Portland, Oregon. Let's spend the money home and bring those troops back here and spend the money here. That's part of the 43%. Where else? We'll have that audit. I want to talk to you for a minute about education. We have lots of issues, and I'll talk about any issues you want. I have a defect as a candidate, I agree. You ask me a question, I'll tell you the truth. It's not something that is done very often in politics. I've been a judge for 25 years and too old to change. Governor Gary Johnson is the same. You ask me questions, and we're going to leave a lot of time for questions because that's more fun for me. But we have basically three issues in our campaign. The economy, jobs, education. Yes, we can talk about the war on drugs, we can talk about health care, we can talk about immigration, we can talk about the death penalty, we'll talk about anything you want. But I'm going to talk about these three. So education. I'm going to ask you a question. Wendy, my friend, who is in a better position to decide? I know you don't have children. Who has children here? Walter, do you have children? Well, Walter, well, it's going to be a stage job. Walter, who is in a better position to decide where and how your children should be educated? You or the federal government?
I have to think about that.
Okay? It's an easy question to answer. Parents are in a better position to decide where and how their children should be educated. Now, let's address it this way. The shoes on your feet. What is he talking about? The shoes on your feet are consumer items. You basically decide what type of shoe you want to buy, the style, the color, approximate price you want to spend, and generally you'll come away satisfied with the type shoe you get and the price you pay. It's what consumer items are. They're purchased from the bottom up, from the consumers. And that's the way all of your stuff, your cars, your guitars, whatever it is you're going to buy. Education is completely different. Education is funded from the top down, okay? The federal government has a whole bunch of money. They keep a bunch for their administration, they give some to the state. They keep a bunch for their administration, they give it to the school districts. They keep a bunch for their administration, they give it to schools. We're almost universally top-heavy with administration. But the parents, the consumers, don't get to choose. As a result, we have, and I think you would all agree with me, throughout the country, we have numbers of schools that are failing our children. Agree? Some of them are not, but many schools are failing our children. Why? Because they're not responsive to their customers. If you allow the parents to choose how and where that tax money is going to be spent. I'm not going to change the funding. It'll still come down from whatever source it comes down from before, but the parents, you can call it a voucher, you can call it a scholarship, I could care less what you call it, but the parents get to control where that money is spent. Then what are they going to do? I have a school, the Gray School, okay? And I'm not doing a good job. I'm failing my customers. I'm failing the students there. What's going to happen? Mr. Benedict over here is going to come to me, if he's nice about it, and say, come on, Gray, get it together, or I'm going to take my children over to Walter School. So what am I going to do? Whoops, I don't want to lose my customers. I don't want to lose my students. I'm going to get better. I'm going to do a better job, to which I say, terrific. Or, if I don't, what's going to happen? He is going to take his students over to another school. Pretty soon I'm losing my customers. I'm losing my source of income. What am I going to do? What's Walter doing over here that I'm not doing, and I'll get better? And if I don't, I'll go out of business, to which I say, good. And then what's going to happen? Caroline, sitting here in the front, she's an industrious type. She's going to come in, buy my school. She's going to set up a better school. Innovation, she's going to use the internet more. She's going to respond to the children's needs, and she's going to thrive. To which I say, good. Milwaukee, I was there 2 weeks ago, have been doing this for about the last 5 years. And they tell me, you know, Judge Gray, it's amazing. We don't have any bad schools anymore in Milwaukee. You folks here, congratulations, are doing the same thing here in New Orleans. How many of you are aware of that? Have school, yeah, school vouchers, so I shouldn't probably be spending this much time on it. School vouchers, what do you call it? Vouchers? What do you call it here? Charter, okay, charter school. Terrific. I don't care what you call them. Excuse me?
10 of them closed in the last year.
10 of them closed in the last year. Well, it's not really church. Okay. Then they should have. But one way or the other, if you have that excellence, they will thrive. And if they don't, the competition will work. What happens with parents that don't care? Now I'm a parent, and I have 3 children, and they don't really care. I mean, I don't care. However, I live next door to Michael over here. And Michael has 3 children also. My kids play with Michael's kids. So Michael does care. He's going to end up going over to the Walter School, or the Benedict School, or whatever it's going to be. And now my kids are going, whoops, my playmates are going to a different school. Daddy, I want to go to that school. There'll be a coattail effect. This will work. Now, we've already established, I believe, that the federal government should not be dictating, like this No Child Left Behind, enormous, colossal bureaucracy. Okay, it isn't working. Set up a test. You really think that's going to determine education or not? Let the parents decide education. You don't need any tests to be able to do that. So we will close the Department of Education. That's part of the 43%. I deeply believe. We have, you can look at the Constitution, you can look at practical reality, look at anything you want to. The federal government should not be involved in education. Now, they have a budget of something in the order of $60 billion a year and something in the order of 4,600 employees. Now, part of that budget, in fairness, is that money that is spent that eventually gets down to the schools. That will remain. So you have, for example, any 5th grade student in the country, we're not talking special needs kids, that's different, but any 5th grade kid in the country will be receiving their parents a voucher for, let's say, $8,500 for a year's education. And the parents can spend it at whichever school they want to, the Michael School, the Walter School, the West School, whatever, okay? That money will still come, but we don't need all those bureaucrats to do it. Top heavy with bureaucracy. So we don't need those people, that's part of the 43%. Teachers, are they going to like this? Well, let's see. Good teachers will love it. Why? Because they'll get paid more. I have some good teachers at my school, and I'm not paying them very much. Benedict over here, doggone it anyway, is going to talk to my teachers and say, wait, Gray is not paying you enough, I'll pay you more. So they'll be in demand. Today, I think you would agree that teachers at other schools, they're not dumb, they know where the money is, it's administration, right? So actually with this system, the teachers end up moving out of the classroom and into administration. In the new system, it'll be different. The teachers will do well. Poor teachers, okay, they may be in a little trouble. Now, in fairness, a lot of poor teachers actually get lazy. You try real hard, you do real well, you have all this bureaucracy, and you start learning, hey, I don't get paid as much as I would otherwise for being lazy and not putting out so much as I do by teaching better. So they get lazy. Maybe those teachers will start teaching well again, and they will thrive. And the poor teachers are going to be out of a job, to which again I say, good. So that's just one of the areas. Now let's talk about jobs, and I will go through this, and then I will take your questions. No, I won't. There are a few other things. There are always a few more things. You have heard, all of you, seen these ads on television by Romney and Obama. Yes? They have hundreds of millions of dollars that they are spending on these TV ads. I'm sure you have seen them. Of those, how many of you have seen in which they have been talking about their records? No. Really? Anybody? I haven't seen any. They're not talking about their record because they can't. Governor Gary Johnson, by the way, has more administrative experience as we speak than both Romney and Obama combined. They're not talking about their record. Neither one has a record to be proud of. They don't talk about it. Okay, ideas. How many of you have seen any ideas on any of these ads by Romney and Obama? I haven't either. They don't have any ideas. You see the debates last night? Actually, I was flying, so I didn't see it. Did anybody see any good or novel ideas on the debates last night? Usually what they say is, my program is less bad than your program. But what they do talk about is how inept the other one is, right? And we agree with both of them. Jobs. They nibble around the edges. Oh, one of them. I'll give a tax break here. Oh, I'll increase taxes or decrease taxes or whatever. Nibble around the edges, won't make any difference at all. I have a 5-point plan. Nonsense. What is it? We do have a plan. This is a huge problem, and if you're not worried about jobs, you're crazy, because you're going to face the job market pretty soon. And we want to be welcoming you into it. What is our program? We're going to repeal the income tax. Abolish the Internal Revenue System. I'm not going to see any talk about it here. Okay, that's fine, that's wonderful, draws applause. What does that have to do with jobs? Stay tuned. First of all, and this is not an answer to it, but the General Accountability Office estimates that we as businesses and individuals spend somewhere between $260 and $600 billion every year to keep tax records and to prepare our income taxes. All of that money would be saved before you even talk about your taxes. That's good, it'll stimulate the economy, but that's not what I'm talking about. No. What I am talking about is our products. They're right here. You can see them, look at them. Agricultural products, manufactured products. They have a competitive disadvantage today. Say we're going to export them from here, from New Orleans, wherever, overseas, because they are artificially higher in price because they pay taxes on them before they leave our shores. The companies that pay income taxes, that's reflected in the cost of the goods. They pay payroll taxes, that's reflected in the cost of the goods. Competing with goods around the world that have not paid taxes on them, we have a competitive disadvantage. You with me? Same thing in reverse. You have other goods from around the world, I don't care, from Singapore, Japan, Argentina, wherever, that have not paid taxes on them, coming into our country as imports, competing with our domestic goods that have paid taxes on them, that all of them pay the same sales taxes. Competitive disadvantage for our goods. But if we were to repeal the income tax and go to what I would call a retail consumption tax, that is, at time of retail sales, like a sales tax, all of the goods would pay the same cost. It would level the playing field. Again, I'm in the air flying a lot. I was sitting next to, actually, a man who is an executive from Nike, you know, the shoe manufacturer. We were discussing this. He looked at me, literally, his eyes got big, and he said, Judge Gray, this is sensational. Do you understand, if we were to repeal the income tax, most companies would bring their manufacturing back to the United States of America. Translation, that's millions and millions of jobs. It's a reverse outsourcing. You can put up tariffs, you can pass laws saying, or you can appeal to the goodwill of our companies and stuff. They're still going to act in their own economic self-interest. They have to in order to stay in business. They're still going to be outsourcing these things unless we change the dynamics, unless we change it. Repealing the income tax will do that. An institutional change that only Governor Gary Johnson can cause to happen. Why? If you think about it, there are 4 groups of people that I can think of that would be against this. The first group, rather transparently, are tax attorneys, tax accountants. H&R Block does not like this idea. Okay, I think we can live with that. Number 2 group of people that are against it, obviously, are the ones that work for the IRS. They're going to be out of work, to which I say again, ooh, that's too bad. The third group, though, I'm concerned about, and that is members of Congress. Why? Because today, members of Congress get enormous, almost incalculable amounts of political power by voting for special tax breaks for their wealthy constituents. They don't want to give it up. But here's where we come in. Because when we win this election, We're going to get such a mandate, such attention, that we're going to be able to go over the heads of Congress and talk to you, saying, look, this is before Congress right now, and if they vote against this, he, she is putting their selfish interest ahead of yours, you go talk to them. We're going to have such a mandate, we will repeal the 16th Amendment, which, by the way, we have to do to bring in income taxes. We are not going to keep the 16th Amendment in the Constitution. Oh, you know, well, Congress would say, oh, well, we'll just reduce taxes down here. We'll bring in the retail consumption tax, and then eventually, of course, they'll bring up income taxes, and we'll have to have both of them. The answer to that, of course, is no. But through you, we will get this done. It's an institutional change. It will level the playing field. Actually, imagine this. We'll be able to start making personal decisions for personal reasons instead of tax reasons. That would be nice. Make business decisions for business reasons instead of tax reasons. Simplify our lives. There's a major difference between simplification and simplistic. Simplistic ain't good. Simplification is wonderful. How many of you agree with me? Well, I'll ask the question differently. How many of you believe that our income tax system today that we have is workable, fair, and equitable? Let's get rid of it, and we can, bringing in millions and millions of jobs to our country. So those are our three issues. Let me tell you a little bit about Governor Gary Johnson. Go a little bit farther back. I told you, I was a federal prosecutor, I was a military JAG attorney, etc. I was a drug warrior. Until I saw in my own courtroom that we're turning low-level drug offenders through the system for no good purpose whatsoever, ruining people's lives, filling up our prisons, and by the way, the United States of America leads the world in the incarceration of our people, both by sheer numbers as well as per capita. And here I assure you, we're number one, does not make me proud. And also, it does not take a sociologist to go through any jail or prison in our country and see that people of color are vastly overrepresented. This is not what we stand for. It's true, and we must get rid of it. So I came to the conclusion that we must repeal drug prohibition. Since that time, I even put a little more teeth into it, and frequently when I start my addressing people, I will say the truth, which is, drug prohibition is the biggest failed policy in the history of the United States of America, second only to slavery, and I believe it. And I'll go on, although we don't have time tonight. I will challenge the people listening to say, you tell me any area of society that you want to, and I will show you how drug prohibition has made it worse. I don't care, environment, healthcare, education, tech, whatever you want, I'll show you how it's been made worse by drug prohibition. We couldn't do it worse if we tried. So I did something very unusual for a trial court judge. Back in 1992, I held a press conference and stated my opinion as loudly as I could, drug prohibition isn't working, we need to change it. The reason I'm saying that is, in 1999, I had no idea who Governor Gary Johnson was. He was then the sitting governor of New Mexico. But I opened my copy of the Los Angeles Times one fine morning and saw headline, Governor Gary Johnson says, drug war is not working, we've got to repeal it and come up with something better. I thought, whoa, that's great. He soon had a drug policy forum in Albuquerque. I was invited to go. I met Governor Gary Johnson, and we've known each other since. This man had no political constituency to do that. Took a great deal of political risk, had all kinds of political problems because of it, but nevertheless, it was the right thing to do, and that's what he did, and he changed the laws in New Mexico, and he's been working well ever since. This man has courage. He wants to do the right thing for the right reason. He has done it before, and that's why he's the best candidate for United States president, certainly the libertarians, in my view, have ever had, and in my lifetime, I can't think of a better person to be president of the United States than Governor Gary Johnson. That's what I believe. So I keep saying that. Every time I would speak in connection to this, Governor Gary Johnson is the most qualified person to be president of the United States of America that I know of. And I guess I said it a few too many times, because then he asked me to be his running mate, so now what am I supposed to say? So I said, yes, I will do it on one condition. And the condition is that we run to win, and we have been ever since. He has agreed. We are running to win, but honestly, we had to be a part of the presidential debates. The third, well, actually, there were 3 presidential debates, one for vice president, 2 of them now for president have come and gone, the one for vice president has come and gone, and of course we've not been involved. We've brought 2 lawsuits, we're probably going to bring 1 more. It still isn't working one way or the other. So if we don't, we're not part of the debates, we're not going to win the election this year. But if we just get 5%, and I'm going to be horrified if we only get 5%, we should get certainly more than that, but as a default position, if we just get 5%, it will be historic. It will change a political lifetime in this country. Why? Because we'll be entitled to matching funds from the federal government, like the Republicans and Democrats. And in many states, if you get 5% or more for president, then in the next presidential election, you'd be on the ballot without having to go through all of these hoops of getting signed petitions and filing all this stuff.